What if there we go. Welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. The host, Jeremy Todd. Man, what an epic night. Brandon G. MF Handley is in the house, a voice of the generation. Brandon, first of all, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that, man. That's the first MF initials that I think I've had to get to use this year. So I appreciate that.
Well, of course, man. We're BFFs. We go way, way back.
We do. And it was funny because we've been at this for a few years now, right? And we were having some struggles getting this one started today. And it was reminiscent of the podcast that you and I did our very first podcast together, 3 years and change ago, right? We were like, how does this podcasting thing work? And what a shit show.
It's crazy. It's a shit show, but you know what? It's better now than it's ever been. And I'm glad you're on the show, man. And one of the questions I want to ask you right off the bat, and well, first of all, congratulations on the new podcast.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Spiritual dope, dude.
Spiritual dope.
You're already a voice of a generation. There's no question about that.
Man.
But dude, your podcast, when you think about podcasts that fit somebody, your podcast fits you. Before I get into my random questions to you, talk a little bit about your podcast because it's money in the bank.
Look. So the podcast is geared towards leading with spirituality, leading your business with spirituality, right? Or your marketing, whatever it is you're doing, and leading with spirituality. And what I think I mean by spirituality, and a lot of people think that spirituality is just like this, kumbaya, my lord, right thing. But at least your spirit is what's inside of you. Your life driving force is your spirit, right? So, and by leading with your spirituality, you are living your inside out. You are expressing all that's within you, and you're letting that kind of flow out. And part of that is your connection to source, God energy, creative universe, whatever you want to call it, right? And a lot of people are afraid to have that conversation. They don't know how to have that conversation. They know that they feel it, but they're afraid to let that out. And what I found is that there are tons of people that are leading with spirituality and that are having more success, when I say more success, they're in greater alignment with who they are. Right. And I was hiding. I was afraid to lead with spirituality, and I contacted a few people, and I was having successful podcasts, and I was doing all these things, but in my heart of hearts, I just really wanted to, express this spirituality thing that I'd been feeling, and also show others how they could do it by interviewing. You've been on the podcast, interviewing people who are leading with spirituality or feeling their way through spirituality to have a more fulfilling life by incorporating all that they are and all that they do, right? And not being afraid to do that. And there's ways to do it that I continue to find, and I'm interviewing people on Spiritual Dope that have done it. They're talking about what it was like to approach it at first, just very similar to myself, where it's like, man, that's scary. I shouldn't do that. But then finding out that the more that you lean into who you are, in alignment with who you are, it's kind of like going down a luge, right? You get on, it's terrifying as shit, just like everything else is in life. But you start there on the top, and you go down so fast. You're like on a body ice skate. It's crazy because you're building that momentum, and the world just opens up so much more, and you feel so much better about what you're doing because you're doing what you feel like you were put on this earth to do.
Well, obviously I'm smiling ear to ear because this is like the perfect show for you, brother. And it's so money. And I've learned so much from your episodes from just the random people. But what I really like is your individual episodes that it's just deep shit that if you want something real and something authentic and something informational and a way to make you think, that's what I love about this new show. Now, Fatherhood for the rest of it was great. Still love the show.
Hey, without that podcast, I wouldn't have discovered who I was. Without that podcast, I would have never gone through the process, right? I would have never gone through the process of discovering myself, right? I would have never spoken myself into existence,
You want to be a voice of a generation?
I wouldn't be the voice of a generation.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me get into the deep questions now. This is the question I just got off a podcast with Erica Lynn. She was super cool, amazing, beautiful, smart, awesome. And we started talking about
Sounded high energy.
It was high energy. Did you hear a little bit of it?
I jumped in for a second. I was like, I gotta get out.
She was fired up. Yeah, she was fired up, and I love her for it. But one of the questions I asked her, and I'm not sure how the conversation really came up, but it was asking. The question was, who do you know that I should know? And I know I've asked you that question probably multiple times, but she said God, and she said, do you know God? And then, you know me, I go off my tangent, and I say, well, what's, the definition of God, and male or female God? Why do we have to put a gender on God? So I go off on this tangent about God, and then I got into, what happens when you die? As the host of Spiritual Dope, I'm curious, spiritually, how do you feel, and what do you think when your time has come and when you die? What happens?
What happens, man? Look, your energy just goes somewhere else, right? It transitions. I mean, I think that I had a friend of mine post today the first law of thermodynamics in a Facebook post. Energy
never stops.
It never goes anywhere, right? Like it's never depleted, never lost. So, you are energy. I don't care how you want to look at it. You are energy. Like your atoms are energy. The life force that's within you is energy. Everything around you is energy in one shape or another, right? So basically you transition into another energy form.
What does that look like?
I've never done it, man. Don't know. Or have I? I don't know. I mean, it's
I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
But,
I don't know.
It's funny.
Do you come back as a dog? Do you come back as a cat? Do you come back as another person? Like, what does it look like?
I don't know, man. There's no end and there's no beginning.
That's weird, isn't it? It's like the try and like grasp the concept. And I think this is going to sound terrible for all the people listening. Please don't hate me for saying this, but I think the one thing that religions do is it makes you feel comfortable with death. It gives you an answer for what you think is going to happen at the end of life. So it makes you feel when you get ready to die, it's okay. You're going to die because you're going to go to heaven.
Can I ask you
then it subconsciously makes you feel better.
Would you do more or less if you were worried about dying with your life?
Well, I mean, would I do more or less? Well, the easy answer is obviously you would do more, but I would tell you this, and again, I may be unique, I may not be unique, but I enjoy life so much, and the internal struggles of my life, the decisions I make, I analyze the living shit out of everything, and I look at big pictures. So I go down these rabbit holes constantly. So would I do more? I don't know if I would do more, because of everything, the things that I think about, the processes that I have in my head, the life after death, did I treat this person right? Can I do better at my job? Can I do a better podcast? Should I go to the gym? My mind is constantly running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Would I do more? I don't know. Maybe, and the reason but I think there's people out there that would.
Well, here's why I ask, right? Like, I mean, if you're living with the constant fear of how your life's going to end, right? If you're living and there's a the end game is something fearful and terrible, who's running towards that? Who's living life at full tilt if if it's nothing but a gruesome, dreary, dark hole in the wall, you just turn into dirt and worms kind of ending?
I don't know. I mean, that's not me for sure. I mean, I don't. It's a good point too. If you look at it, big philosophy style, that like, why would you race to the end of death? Like, what do you race to the end of a cliff and then you run off and then you're good? I don't know. But again, if you tie this all back to, the religion aspect of heaven and hell, I think it's a way for us to make ourselves feel justified within our own heads about what comes at the end of our life, that we say, I'm going to go see all the people that have died. You're up there with your mom and your dad and your brothers and your sisters that all passed away. So it's okay to die, but I don't know if that's the right perspective to have. I think the perspective that you're saying is the right one. And again, there's no right or wrong. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I'm just a schlup in Indiana. I have no idea what is right or wrong. But I think that I think that's one of the reasons religion is there, is to make us feel warm and fuzzy and to do the right things and to make us feel like, hey, when heaven's here, I'm gonna see all the people. I'm gonna see my dog that died.
And
R.I.P.
here's
my
the thing.
dog
Here's the
Wrigley.
thing.
I love that dude.
You're gonna catch up with Wrigley, but here's the other thing: is Wrigley gone, or is he still here, just in a different
I
energy
don't
form?
know.
Right. But the other thing is, I don't look at religion as in that way, right? I don't look at religion. I look at religion as how to live your life, how to find heaven in the here and now, how to connect with God, and by saying God, look, the energy, the life force that runs through us is unknowable. We don't know how it got here, right? We don't know what really drives
No.
this life form.
No.
So, and we use the word God just to kind of encompass that, right? The energy. I love Abraham Hicks. It says, the energy that creates worlds, right, is running through you, right? Because it's
Sure.
true. It's truth, right? Everything that's been created has been created by, I think you and I have had the conversation, by some kind of grand design, right? It wouldn't function the way that it wouldn't function the way that it does without like some type of dabbling to get it just right. If you think about it, what are the odds of us, first of all, even being born, are like 1 in 4 trillion or 400 trillion. And then here we are, we're on like this little speeding ball that's hurtling through like, infinite space and around a big ball of gaseous fire. And I could never pretend to have the answers as to how we got here, right? But that's where you say, that's God. I don't know. I don't have a little faith that there's some cooler things happening that I'm not aware of, and I'm gonna sit back a little bit. I love the idea of surrendering to the idea that I don't know shit. But I get presented a lot of things that I can think about, right? And I can meditate on, and I can sit in that space. And in that space, I mean, in the meditation space, I can be with God. Or, one of the meditations that I've been doing recently is being in love, right? I sit in love. I just be in love. I am a being of a love being. I don't fucking know, right?
Well, we'll talk about that, because I think that I think encompasses so many things, and we gloss over it so often. I'm in love, or I love this, or I love that. I love you, brother, or I love. But I think, man, oh man, when you talk about love, and I think about self-love and loving someone else truly, like the way you love your kids, the way you love your best friend, the way I love my shoes, the way I love myself. Talk a little bit about that, because when you talk about meditation, about love, man, that piques my interest to know.
It's just love is kind of I think the one that we can probably both resonate the most with is unconditional love of our children, right? Unconditional love of our children. And then we look at how we've been able to do that unconditional love for our children, and then we apply that to ourselves, right? Because probably didn't do a really good job of unconditionally loving ourselves until I didn't, anyways, until after I had my children, right? And after I think I met Meg, one of the big stories I always tell is like years ago when I called Meg drunk from the where was I? Oh man, where was I?
Well, you were drunk. You don't remember, right?
Well, I mean, I was in California, right? I was in Cannery Row, right? Cannery
Cali,
Row,
baby.
Monterey Bay. 4 a.m. Give her a call. Had this conversation. End of the conversation. I list out all my faults. I'm like, here's all my problems. And I was like, if that's who if that's what you want to see in your life. She was in Pennsylvania. I was in California. So if that's what you want to see in your life, I'll see you. I'll see you in 2 weeks. She said, yeah. And right then and there, I realized that I was with somebody who was capable of unconditional love, that wanted me just the way that I was in their lives. And come hell or high water, the big plan for me was to figure out how to have that even just for myself. I didn't even have that for myself, right? I didn't have unconditional love for myself. And so, getting back to, so when our children or finding somebody that loves you just for who you are, and then figuring out how to do that for yourself, right? How do I love myself without judgment, right? You were talking earlier, like, about all the things of like, can I be better, this, that, or the other thing? Tomorrow I'll be better. Maybe I shouldn't have eaten that thing. Shut up and just love yourself, right? And like, if you could just do that for like 30 seconds, right, of your day, and just like love yourself for 30 seconds, and then when you do it, and I like to think, my meditations, right, like I think of like that torus, right, like the vortex, where like the big donut, constant energy thing going, right? So I'm the core of that donut, right?
Okay.
And so I give myself this love, but then as I'm loving myself, it's emanating out throughout the universe, right? And that's the visual that I have. I'm like, I'm the
It's a
giver.
great visual.
I'm both the giver and the gift, right? I give myself love, but then it emanates out, right? If I can love myself and I can love the universe, it's like, I mean, that's it, right? All I'm doing is loving life, but being in it, right? And not actively doing, just sitting in it, just feeling it, just being
Well, let me ask you this
in it.
question while you're
Go
in
ahead.
that, because I think this is
Mhm.
important. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that especially on the show, that are going to be listening to yourself. Okay, so how do you love yourself? Like, if you're miserable,
Mhm.
life is shitty,
Mhm.
however you want to describe that shittiness.
Mhm.
uh, Like, Brandon, how do you? Okay, well, I don't love myself. Like, I don't love myself. I don't love these things about me.
Yeah, I mean, look
It's
at, I mean,
easier for you. Like, it's easier for you to say that, but I don't love myself. Like, how do I do that? What do I start?
well, I mean, you gotta ask yourself, do you want to feel love, right? Maybe you can't love yourself in that moment. So then, if you're so far down and out, what can you love? What can you feel, right? And maybe love's not the best thing for you to feel right now. To be honest with you, what do you need to feel in order to elevate, right? So maybe let's say you're in a place of like shame and disgust and whatever, and if you pause this for like a second, Jeremy, pause it 1 second, all right?
Okay. No,
I'm
we're
gonna
not
go.
pausing
I'm gonna go.
nothing, dude.
Well, hold on. I'm
Go
gonna grab a book for us. Hold on a second.
go get a book, and I'm gonna keep talking. I don't pause nothing, but it's interesting when you were talking about that, and whether you can hear me or not doesn't matter, because this is the thought that I have when you talk about the love part of it and being within that part of the love. Like, maybe it's not that time for you to love yourself. Maybe you
Oof.
have to be within the negativity. So I was just saying, Brandon, before you bounce, but when you mentioned, like, you don't have to be, maybe it's not your time to be within the love. Maybe it's time to experience that experience in your life, to understand that this is just an experience. This isn't like, hey, I just filed bankruptcy, my
Right.
life sucks.
Mm,
I need to own this. I need to experience it. And what is this teaching me? Instead of saying, my life sucks, my life sucks, I'm not responsible for this, blame that, but actually learning something from the experience that you're in instead of trying to get out of it so fast. I think sometimes you may not learn that lesson,
mm, yeah. Yeah.
but maybe it's important to be in it.
Yeah. 100%. To be in it, to be present for that moment, right? What are those emotions teaching you, right? What is making you feel that way, and just feel it. Because the more you try and push it off, the whole line of what you resist persists type thing, right? It's not going away until you kind of accept it, embody it, own it, and/or let it go. Then, right? Like
Yeah.
meaningfully let it go. Be like, I have dealt with this, right? In terms of like the bankruptcy, right? Like we both have our old coach who went through the bankruptcy, right? And he tells a story of how he reached out to like some millionaires and sat with them, and then was like, he reached across the table and he was like, I just filed bankruptcy, right? and
Yeah.
and and then the other guy's like, how many times, right? and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and that response in of itself is telling, because you're like, you can do this more than once, right?
Yeah.
And without being shot into a ball of flames. Anyway, so what I ran off to grab, right, was this book called Power versus Force. And really it's kind of a study in kinesiology and how the body um, is kind of like a speaker of the subconscious type thing. Like it does like you can do like testing where it'll give you yes or no testing if you hold your arm out type thing. But it knows things like your body is attached to your subconscious, and it knows things that you're maybe not aware that it knows, which is cool in of itself. But what it has in here is this map of consciousness, kind of showing it up there, but you won't really see it. And what it goes through, it says like the top level is like enlightenment, goes to peace, joy, love, reason, acceptance, willingness, neutrality, as it continues to go back down the scale of this map of consciousness. And you may have seen this because I remember Elise showed it to me when we were first working with each other. It's called Love or Above. Do you remember that? Did you ever see it? Okay, so when she was talking about this other girl that's got a show, back in the day, or coaching.
She'll be on my show here in about 2 months.
So stoked for her, dude. I mean, come on, man.
Exactly.
So cool. It's so cool. Like I love how we all connected too, right?
Oh,
like
hell
just
yeah.
kind of how that story
worked
continues.
out perfect.
So in Love or Above, right? So that coaching program is called Love or Above because they've given like these basically vibrational levels. So love would be like 500, and above love would be oneness, complete, and joy, serenity, and above that would be bliss, illumination, all being imperfect, and finally like is enlightenment. Those are your Buddhas and your Jesuses and those guys. Now what I was saying before though was maybe you're down here way past like and you're in disdainful, tragic, grief, right, regret, despondency. So you know what, your next leap isn't love, dude. You don't just say, hey, let's jump straight to love, right? You could. I mean, there's people that can, right? I'm not saying, but if you feel like that's not your thing, right? Maybe your next step up is honestly from grief would be like fear or anxiety, right? I mean, these are steps up. And these are all kind of like lower bounds on this map. But as you kind of, you've got that course, like the ladder, climbing the ladder,
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Move your way up, right? And one rung at a time, and without stressing. Be like, you know what? Yesterday I felt like, I was feeling, disappointing, and I had some other things and cravings and, all this other stuff. But today I'm feeling, I have pride and, maybe I'm indifferent, but those are steps up, right? So realize that, maybe love isn't your next step. Maybe love isn't your next rung. And that's what I meant by like, maybe you shouldn't be trying to feel love in your current situation. And I think that the biggest step to get to is the ones I think that you and I got to. And I think that had one of the biggest impacts, at least for me in my life, was courage. Right? Courage is the tilting point, right? You get up to a certain point, and that's really on this, logarithmic scale of 1,000 up to 1,000. Once you get up to out of like all these like lower rung feelings, courage is 200, right? And once you have some courage, this is where words like affirmation, empowerment, permitting, and feasible all show up. You begin to think of like, what would happen if I went ahead and pressed record on that podcast and I shared it with the rest of the world?
Yeah.
What if I press that? What happens if I do that? Right. And when you do that, when you press that button, you're transcending into your next levels. So now you're saying, I'm encouraged. I've just self-empowered myself. And when you press record and nobody comes to your house with burning torches and pitchforks to get you off your podcast, now you're affirmed, right? I mean, because nobody's ever told me I wasn't the voice of a generation, Jeremy. I keep saying that, right? So
I think you are.
Right. So nobody's ever come up to me. So those are affirmations. And so that, once I start feeling that, then I keep moving up the ladder again, right? Now I'm feeling like there's trust, there's release, there's willingness, optimism, intention, transcendence. And you keep working your way up that. And this is like a vibrational ladder, right? So you keep working your way up. And I hope that's the answer, I think, when you ask that question.
You know what, that may be one of the most powerful things I've ever heard in my entire life. All bullshit aside, I think, dude, that is so powerful. I mean, you are exactly freaking right with that shit, because I think when you're in pain, you want to go to love right away. Like, I got to get out of this pain, but the next level may not be love. It may be fear or anxiety, and
Or
that's
ice cream.
or ice cream. But yeah, but accepting that, like saying, okay, yes, I'm at this point now, but now I'm scared to go to the next level, and understanding that that is the next level, but not just fearing the fear, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Accepting the fear and saying, and consciously saying, this is the next point of me getting to the next level. It's okay for me to be fearful.
Right.
All of this stuff is okay because it's part of the process for me to grow.
100%.
And like you said, you can go from misery to fear to love instantly, or it could go misery, fear, anxiety, shame. It could be multiple levels before that, but each level is something different that you have to go through. Dude, that's freaking money, man.
We can think of them like, milestones. You can think of them.
However, whatever, yeah.
I mean, but it's also that other thing, like too, right? Like driving at nighttime with the headlights on, right? You only need to see 200 feet in front of your head, like just get to the next space, right? And the next space may look just like the last 200 feet, but you're making progress, right? I think one of the things that I've come across in kind of this spiritual endeavor, right, is I don't believe that there's any true like growth per se. I think there's just recognition of who you are, right? And that grows over time.
That's interesting too, and that's a great perspective, because essentially what you're saying, and I think this is hard for people to grasp that concept, is that you already have all of the greatness within, but you haven't accepted that greatness.
And that's a big part of accepting yourself as you are right now, right? Without judgment. That's the unconditional love stuff. Like no judgment. Like, just whatever you're doing, whatever stupid shit you think you've done that's like the most heinous in the world is like, it's nothing. Right. Like, so stop beating yourself up over it. And then decide where do you want to go next? And that's the thing, right? Stop. There was another story I heard last night in another course I'm taking. And the story was like, this woman who's swimming across the lake, and she's doing it like a big, huge lake. And in one arm, she's got a rock, right? And she's swimming across this lake, and she's got a rock, and she starts slowing down because she's holding onto the rock, and she keeps, she starts sinking. And then she's got people that are watching her on the side. They're like, let go of the rock. And she's still swimming. She's still going. She's still holding on the rock. And she starts swimming, and she's starting to go under, right? And people are still sitting there going, let go of the rock. And she shouts back. She goes, I can't. It's mine. Right? Like,
yeah, sure.
You're attached to it, right? Like, you're so attached. It's part of your story that you tell everybody everywhere you go. And like, let go of that shit. That's not helping you. I mean, it's no good.
It's funny that you said, because Zig Ziglar's got a similar story. It's not the same, but he talks about the story about someone being completely negative and miserable, and them telling that story to you, and then saying they don't want to know the answer, because if you give them the answer, they can't tell the next person, the next person, the next person, the same old bullshit story. Yeah. But man, I tell you what, it's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not easy until you do it, right?
Well, maybe it's not. What is it? It's not easy, but it's simple, or it's not simple, but it's easy. Whatever version that's easy. But it's funny. Like, and this is how I feel like where you are, where I'm at. Like we've been down this journey, and I think the end journey of us is so within the next 6 months, year, whatever that case is, maybe 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case is. But the greatness is all in front of us. But we made the initial leap. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we've written rags to riches making billions of dollars, but man, I tell you what, right now with what we're doing, I feel better now than I've ever felt my entire life, because it's like you just said, it's the initial doing something instead of sitting on the sidelines, get in the game and actually try and make moves and man, accepting who you are, because I'm sure like me, I'm the positive side guy. You're the positive, quote unquote, positive guy. I get made fun of all the time for me, but that's
I gotta spin on that for you too. That like I've been thinking about recently, and I'm curious on your take on it. Right? So positive isn't like let's have like Zig Ziglar would always say it's not rose-colored glasses, right? Positive doesn't mean everything's great all the time. Positive means, all right, here's a situation. The situation itself may or may not be shitty, right? But it's what you do next. It's that continuous movement forward, i.e. positive movement, progressive movement in your life. That's the positive side of things. Like, how can we move beyond this in a positive manner, good or bad? Like, it's in addition to my life. And that's how I've been thinking of it more recently versus like, because I've seen people, say toxic positivity. It's sure, there's always like somebody all the way too far to one spectrum or the other.
Yeah.
But like, if we just take it for what it means, right? Positivity means to move in a progressive manner, right? And that's the gist of it. So here's the situation. How can you move it forward? What do you think?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think, when I think of that, I think of all the setbacks and the downfalls and me going through funks where I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to be there. I want to quit the podcast. I want to quit everything I got. But I continue to move it forward because when I think, this is the biggest thing for me, is when I think when times get the toughest, when I'm maybe not getting, again, this sounds so stupid, but it's childish and selfish. When I'm not getting as many downloads as I think I deserve, or that was a great episode. Why isn't it blowing up?
Why didn't the universe catch that?
Yeah. So I do these things. I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not right. Maybe it's this. And all of a sudden I'll get a random email that says, you've changed my life. You've done this, you've done that. So then I think to myself, because my timeline isn't what I want my timeline to be. It's not my timeline is already planned out the way I feel. It's already happening in front of me. I can't stop, because if I stop, I'll never get my chance to get to the next level. I'll never give myself the opportunity to get to the next point. I've been doing the show now for 3.5 years. It's a long time, man.
It is a long time.
And it's consistency.
I'm on my third one.
Yeah, is it 3? I thought 3 or 4 or 5. Hell, who knows? But it's consistency, man. There's ups and there's downs. And I look at this in my whole life and where I'm trying to go and where I'm trying to be. And man, I want to get there now. I want to be there now.
Sure.
But it's not the timeline. My timeline is to learn to, here's a great quote. Sam Crowley said to me, this is how silly I thought years ago. I had a guy named, what the hell was his name? Oh, I had my buddy Dave Anderson, but I had a guy, what was his name?
The big car guy?
No, but I had those guys on. But that's what am I thought? There was a guy that wrote a book, something about having balls or some shit. It was a bald head, older dude with a beard. I can't remember his name, but he's a big time speaker, big thing. I'm like, I'm going to have this guy on the show and my podcast is going to blow up. I mean, it's going to take off. I cannot believe this.
Right.
This is amazing that he's on my show. And literally my podcast numbers went down after that episode. I'm like, what in the hell happened?
Right.
I could have been crushed. I could have given up. I could have stopped.
Right.
But I knew that wasn't the end goal. But now what this show has really changed my life. It's having people like you on the show. It's having people like Adam Walton on the show the other day. It's having Erica Lynn that was just on. I mean, the list goes on. Bree Lord was on the other day. I mean, having her on. And the people that have sent me these messages, dude, I couldn't be happier or prouder where my show is right now than I could ever imagine in a billion years. And I'm more comfortable now than it's ever been because it's just taken time. And it's morphed and created this little funky niche. I don't
It's
know
awesome, man. No, man, it's been awesome,
damn,
right?
I'm excited about it, bro.
Yeah, no, I was just telling Meg, I was like, it's so cool, how far you've come with your podcast, right? And she goes, well, is he making money? I said, you know what? It's not about that. It's about, and look, and sure it is, right? Like, I mean, we all want to make more money, just like Sally Struthers said back in the 80s. It's
yeah, of course.
But it's also about, whose lives are you touching? Who's, what are you doing for yourself? And I think that this is a huge thing for what you're doing for yourself. And I go back to, this is kind of your self-love, right? This is kind of your way of kind of getting in touch with who you are and being able to have the conversations that you need to have in your life. This is how you're doing it. And then,
no question.
You get to amplify it, right? Like, I love this microphone because this microphone And that microphone puts us in touch with, I saw on social media today that there's over 4.5 billion people on social media every day or something like that. Crazy, right? So if you think about it, like if the world wanted to, they could hear us right now today. And that means that we have the capability through this mechanism to amplify our thoughts, feelings, and voices to 4.5 billion people, right?
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's huge. It's huge. And you know, at the 4.5 billion people, if I can change one life, was that not enough? You know what I'm saying? Forget that one. I need 15 of them. What?
Well, listen. I think that the most important life you change in the whole thing is your own through the process.
This podcast has completely changed my life, and it's changed my life because, like, I know I keep going back to it, but I mentioned this to someone today. Actually, I mentioned my friend Jamie. I think it was Jamie, but Brandon, you're one of my best friends, brother. I mean, there's no question about it. We have had conversations upon conversations, and I would have never met you if it wasn't through this platform.
Right.
And it's just, I just had this conversation about when you're stuck in your own little world and you don't ever reach out and you don't try and get better and you don't try and push the envelope and meet other people in different areas of the country. Like, can you imagine how sad my life would be or your life would be if we didn't do what we did? I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine the other side of it?
I don't know what I'm doing right now because of COVID, right? Like Meg and I were talking because I'm not going out and I'm not doing other things. Like, but because of COVID in the area where we are, because of how much we care about our families versus going to do all the fun things, right? We've basically quarantined ourselves pretty hardcore, and so that means that you remember I was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'm not doing that right now.
BJJ. BJJ report. It was great.
BJJ report, right? And I miss it so much. And there's really no replacement for that. Right. So she's like, listen, I sometimes I get concerned for you because you don't have those things, right? You like to I like to get out. I like to see people. I like to talk to people. I like people. I mean, that's how it goes. And I said, you know what? The podcast helps fill that void. Without the podcast, I don't think that I would have the same space, time, and place. But I have it, and this is what it's given me, the ability to reach out to people like yourself and have these conversations.
I think that's what the biggest takeaway I'd have for anybody is just now is the time, man, to reach out to people that you may not know that well, but if they look interesting, reach out, because people that you may think that are interesting are looking for people to reach out to. And I think it's an opportunity for us to all come together and reach out and meet more people and man, just be better people and have better conversations. Because some of the conversations I have, and like no disrespect to my friends, but most of them don't listen to my podcast anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I get tired of the same old bullshit conversations. It's the same old shit, and that doesn't interest me. They all think I'm weird as hell because I want to talk about aliens and shit. They think I'm weird as hell, but that's okay. Hey, I am weird. But it's a cool weird. It's a great conversation piece.
So it's weird you want to be, right? Like, you're pulling your piece. And I would throw out there to anybody that's kind of looking to get in a podcast, and definitely reach out to Jeremy, because he's been doing it for a while now. Super awesome at it. You are an amazing coach as well. But the other part of it too is, like, I mean, if you don't need much to get into it, right? You just have to have, literally, like we talked about a little bit earlier, if you're on the slightly minus side of like courage, and you've got a dream, if you've got a thought, if you've got a vision, if you've got a story, if you've got an interest, and you can't find the people in your neighborhood, you can't find the people right around you, you can find them online, and you can develop a community, and you can develop a niche, and you can realize and find out just how fucking awesome you are. Because when you have those conversations with people that, and it's not to create an echo chamber, it's to reach out to people that appreciate you for who you are, as you are, because what you've done is you've developed into an amazing human being, and you're just looking to share that, man. And so I think that podcasting is just an amazing way to do it. It opens up so many doors. I've talked to authors, I've talked to multimillionaires, I've talked to just so many different people, shamans, mystics, and just like whoever you want to talk to now becomes approachable, right? all through a
100%.
microphone. And that's it. A microphone and an internet connection is all you need. And so if you're looking to do it, I highly recommend you do it. And if you're looking to somebody to support you and what you're doing, Jeremy's like the person to do it with. And he's not paying me to say any of this. And
I appreciate it.
I just know that, you're great at what you do. And I know there are people out there that if you're impacting their lives, what's the next level for that person, right? To crawl, not necessarily crawl, or even accelerate, who they are in their lives. Maybe they've already got a great life and they're like, man, it would top this off as like, a podcast microphone in my grave, whatever.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's one of the greatest things that's ever been invented. I'm just so happy and so proud to be host of the show with all the people that have been listening, and glad you're on the show. Cause like I said earlier, you're one of my best friends by far. Not just saying that, I've had you on the show multiple times, but the many times that we talk after the show, before the show, random times, random morning, none of this would be possible without the power of the podcasting and listening to the different episodes. And man, the stuff I've learned, the stuff you talked about tonight, dude. I mean, that if you didn't get something out of that, there's something wrong with you, because I'm dead ass honest, man. That right there. I mean, if people are out there struggling, and that's what I loved about the show is that I'm not trying. I think Sam Crowley says this a lot of times. I'm not trying to get you A to Z. I'm trying to get you A to B. Mm-hmm. If what you just said tonight gets somebody that's in a shitty spot from A to B or A to C, okay. Yeah, I'm in.
Take that as a win, man. That's a win. That's a win.
Yeah. Who else can I share this show to allow them to get from A to B? I mean, man, dude, it's just you cannot overstate the power of what you said tonight, and I think it made a big impact with me, because you can relate that to not just your life. You can relate that to like a sales. Like, I want to be the best salesman in the world. Well, if you want to be the best salesman in the world, maybe you should get better on the phone first, or maybe you should get better, closing deals, or comfortable with yourself, or product knowledge, or whatever the case is. You can use that for health. I want to lose 100 pounds. You're not going to lose 100 pounds in one day.
That's a great sales book, brother.
The ultimate sales machine. Hell yeah. But you're not going to lose 100 pounds in one day. You're going to lose 1 pound. And going through these steps. But I think when you talk about mental stability and mental health, it's so we forget about so many other steps that are in between.
Dude, let me ask you this, right? Let me ask you this, right? If you found out you had cancer, would you, go out and get like all the best kinds of doctors and take care of that shit?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And this was actually said by my current, place of employment, which, astounded me. This came from leadership, and he goes, why you need to do the same thing with your mental health.
Wow. That's cool.
Right. I mean, so, liken your mental health to a state of cancer, because honestly, it kind of leads the same direction. So if you're if you're struggling, reach out to people, right? I mean, you're not the only one, I promise you. And again, this is another thing where the internet's great. You've got this safety pane, right? You've got the safety pane of glass. There's so many different places where you can reach out online and you're from the comfort of your own home, right? And have a conversation with someone. Take care of yourself, right? Like, I mean,
dude, you couldn't be any more right. I was just talking about that in the last episode about, I do understand. I don't understand, but if you are struggling, reach out. Vulnerability is a strength. And there are so many people out there that are willing to help. And, man, the world is way better with you than without you. And I think it's so important to make sure we understand that and understand we all have this greatness within, and we just got to get through the bullshit to get to that far point. And again, that's what goes along with what you're saying, is that if you are at the absolute rock bottom of your life, you're not going to go from rock bottom to a billionaire. You need to go rock bottom to maybe getting a job, or rock bottom to having a good day or a good hour or something, but something to build upon to get you to the next level. So again, man, I appreciate you sharing it, brother. I don't want to take you, I got you for an hour now, or close to an hour. I know you're very busy, Brandon Handley, the voice of the generation.
I just want to say thanks for having me on. I always appreciate it.
Well, tell everybody again, man. I love that dope ass sweatshirt you got.
Listen, so I had somebody, and I'll throw his name out there, right? This guy, James Gaffney. did my logo and did my site for me. I couldn't be happier with it, dude. Like, I mean, right? The little Jesus with the
Hell yeah.
heart lighting up, and then he's got the
Yeah,
little Buddha with like the heart lighting up on his head. And
absolutely.
he did the graffiti work for me, and just came out so good. I had to get it on some clothes, right?
Well, I got the
And
coffee cup, and the coffee cup's money. I use it every other day. I got
I
one with
love
my
it, brother.
kids, and then one with spiritual dope on it that I use every other day.
I
So,
love it, man. I love it. You know what? Somebody else said that today too, man. So I really appreciate the time you spent. So spiritualdope.co, right, is where you can go. That's the central hub. You can connect to my Instagram or Facebook from there. All the podcasts are there. When I feel like blogging, I put something up there. And that's it, man. If you're looking for, I've got a course that's halfway through the works. It's called, the Divine Framework, right? Connecting yourself to your divinity, from humanity to divinity. Really, I mean, that's the goal,
it's,
man, right? Well, listen, right? So here's the deal, right? How you only rise to your level of thinking, right? So your level of thinking about yourself, or anything you think about yourself, if you think about yourself as human, you're stuck in humanity. If you
okay,
can think
yeah.
about yourself as divine, which you are, your divinity, your life incarnate, right? So how much more opens up to you in your way of thinking if you're connected to the divine source, right? So that's from humanity to divinity, man. I'm just trying to take you to the next level, man. And
How cool is that, dude?
that's a super simple one too. That's, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I can see the light and the twinkle in your eye, dude, and I love it. I'm so proud of you. I think it's amazing. I'm going to take the course. There's no question about it. And I would encourage everybody out there listening. I mean, come on, man. I mean, come on. If you were to, I mean, hey, you're not going to give all the answers to life, but you're going to put yourself on the right, give yourself a roadmap to find those answers out yourself. It's kind of like a
That's
treasure
it.
map,
Well, that's it, right? Set up the framework, and that's literally all I'm doing is putting up a framework. You decide how you want to dress it up.
Hell yeah. Brandon Handley, it's always a pleasure, my friend. I love you like a brother. You know that. And like I said, everybody out there listening around the world, 198 countries.
So sweet.
It is so sweet, dude. It's cool, man. Creeping up on, I'll have 300,000 downloads by the end of this month,
That's awesome, man.
which it's a lot of downloads, buddy. And, 12, 13,000 listeners worldwide.
God bless
And
y'all, man.
it's
How
going
great.
good, man.
How
But
cool.
it is cool, dude. It's a powerful feeling. And tell Meg the paychecks are coming. It's all
Yeah,
good.
man. Yeah,
But
man.
hey, like I say on every episode, you got greatness within. Like always, this is the positive side.